This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for therapy. If you are experiencing mental distress, please seek professional help.
We are all symbol miracles.
Welcome to the Wellness Project Podcast. I am your host, Wilson. Each episode aims to bring mental health awareness through exploring psychoeducation, scholarly literature, professional interviews, and the personal stories of people's journey to mental wellness. So, with that said, let's get started.
So go line your pockets with anything gold. 'Cause what good is a conscience if it can't be sold? And we are all simple miracles.
Test 1, 2. Okay.
Hello.
Well, hello there. How are you?
Hello. Good. Beautiful, chilly, sunshiny Sunday.
Oh, I know, right? Can you believe it? It's so cold right now.
You would think it would be a little bit toastier, but no.
Yeah. Then again, we live in Ohio.
Yes. And I
Um,
rethink that every now and then, and I go, nah, too much,
yeah.
brouhaha to move. So I'll just stay put.
Yeah, is there anywhere else in the world that you would rather be?
No, I mean, we get all 4 seasons, sometimes in the same day.
Yep.
My whole
Yep.
family's here pretty much. So, yeah. No.
Yeah. I think there is, there's something to the winter months. I don't know what it is, but I usually feel better like when springtime rolls around and
Mhm.
like I've got family that lives in like warmer places, and I just don't think that they have the same, I don't know, mind shift or appreciation for it.
I mean, my cousin went to UCLA, clear out in California. He lasted like a year and he came home and he goes, I missed the seasons.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, like you just don't think how much it really impacts you.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I don't do heat, so that doesn't do me any good.
Yeah, it's the same with Mrs. Wilson. She's like, I need the cold. I gotta have, snow and all that. But can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, good, because I bought this cord to plug into my phone, and I thought it might be even better, but of course the cord wouldn't work with my phone. So, oh well.
That's usually how it works.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you for being, I guess, the Wellness Project's very first phone call guest.
That's exciting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm super excited about this. I've got the video cameras set up. I don't know if that part will work, but I figured why not try it all, right?
Heck yeah. Why not?
Absolutely. So I guess we'll just start with a little background. Share with us just a little bit about your childhood and growing up.
Growing up, I lived in the same house I was born in until I was 25. Met my significant other, moved out into our own house about 6 months before we got married. All my family's here except for a few cousins. One of my aunts lives in New Hampshire, but she contacts me pretty regularly. I was always involved in school stuff and dance and Girl Scouts and, all the normal fun high school-y stuff.
Sure.
I have tons of cousins right around my age, so I always had somebody around me. My godparents lived right across the street, so I had an automatic second family already set up. My youngest older god sister is only 18 months older than me, so we got to do all the things together. And really the only big adjustment I had was when she went to college clear out in Utah and I was still here.
Mm.
And so I would get out of class in the morning and I would go to call her and I would be like, she's 3 hours behind
Totally
us.
different time zone. Sure.
So it would be like 8 o'clock here and it's 5 a.m. there. And I'd wake her up and I was like, I am so sorry. She goes, it's fine. Like, you know how much I love you.
Yeah. So it was sort of like the first person in your life that had moved away and that was super close to you.
Yeah. And I mean, we talked every day and we were integrated in everything each other did, you know, even when she came home for prom my senior year, she still took pictures with me. And, you know, she still is one of my best friends to this day.
Great.
And I was very blessed with that. And I'm still very blessed. Most of my whole family still lives here, you know, pretty close within 15 to 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So
nice.
Yeah. So you were saying that you met your husband in high school, like high school sweetheart type stuff?
So
or
no,
okay.
I actually met him online.
Really?
Like most of the universe anymore.
Yeah.
In my 5th year, senior year of college, I was finishing up the requirements for my second minor. And I met him and we started dating and we got engaged 3 months after we started dating.
That's a little soon,
we were married. Well, they always say when you know, you know.
True. That's right.
I mean, we didn't get married for a year and a half after that. So we got married in September 2010.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Well, take me through, I guess, the story that you were able to sort of share with me last weekend.
Okay. So, I had my pick of colleges and I stayed local just because my whole family's here, my whole support system's here. Also, it kind of saved not having to pay room and board on campus. So I went to OSU. Also, I was highly recruited by them for my major. So I joined the sorority my freshman year of college. And all of us were medical field, so it was pretty cool. And that is actually where I met a significant other at that time, who was in a fraternity that we did a lot of stuff with. And we were dating and we were coming back and forth from my parents' house in my hometown to OSU campus just to, you know, be able to do laundry and stuff like that. And one morning we were driving in, he had class and I had work because I worked for the university at that time. And we were on I-70 West at 7:30 in the morning. And anybody who knows the city of Columbus knows that is stop and go traffic.
Yeah.
We stopped. The lady behind us did not. She hit my side of the car at about 65 miles an hour. And so I had an 88 Honda Accord. I loved that car. It did not have airbags. So when she hit me, the back of my seat, the trunk was touching the back of my seat.
Oh my gosh.
I ended up with a traumatic brain injury, severe head trauma. They didn't know it at the time, that I ended up with a concussion and some other things because I didn't have airbag deployment. So they didn't even look at me.
About like what year was this?
That would have been 2003 2003.
2003. Okay.
Yeah.
And so did they take you to the hospital or?
No, my mom actually drove me and my significant other at the time. His side of the car was completely untouched. He was in the driver's seat and I was in the passenger seat.
Oh,
and
okay.
She hit me going hard enough. My car went under the car in front of us and then that car went in the car in front of them.
Oh my gosh.
And so my mom took me and they're like, oh, you have whiplash and this, that, and the other. And I just had a headache. I was like, okay, no big deal, you know. And as time went on, the headache wouldn't go away. And I was just having worse and worse feeling like I just could not get enough sleep. I was sleeping. I would get out of bed quick enough to get a shower, get dressed, and make it to work on time. I'd take a nap at lunch. And then right after I got home from work, I would go right back to sleep. And that's how I lived for several months.
Several months?
And then, yeah.
Isn't that like a thing where after like a concussion, you're not supposed to like sleep or something? I thought, yeah. Okay.
And they didn't think anything of it because the x-rays really didn't show anything. But it ended up, I had the bruising in the back of my skull and stuff like that they just didn't see on a regular X-ray.
So for several months this was going on, and then you went back. Did they do like a CAT scan of some sort, or?
Yep, they did a CAT scan and an MRI, and they found out my brain was still swollen, bruised, bruising in the front and the back, because basically when you get hit, your brain goes forward and hits the front of your skull and then goes backwards and hits the back of your skull. I had double that impact.
Yeah, and like they always say too, you know, like to go back, you know, a couple months after a major car accident, because, you know, some things could be going on internally, but I mean, you know, you didn't have any idea.
Yeah. And so thankfully my doctor finally listened, because I said, all I'm doing is sleeping.
Yeah.
I don't feel like myself. I'm getting angry really quickly. I just don't care about anything. My anxiety is through the roof. There's something wrong. So she finally ordered the testing and it came back. So they're like, well, we need to get the swelling out of your brain as soon as possible. So they put me on high-dose steroids. And those, that was a fun experience. I gained 60 pounds in no time flat. So I would go from, you know, my clothes fitting perfect to the next day I couldn't wear them.
Oh,
and that sucked.
Yeah. I've heard that steroids, you know, they're not supposed to be used for long term. I don't think, you know, but it just depends on the situation. What was going through like your boyfriend's at the time? I mean, like what was his experience like too? Because he was in the car with you, right?
Yeah, he ended up with whiplash. That's it on his side of things.
Yeah.
He pretty much got back to normal, and then he just saw me spiraling.
Okay, yeah.
And he just didn't know what to do, and he would try to take care of me and ask me how to make dinner and stuff like that, and I would just get angry and lash out.
Yeah.
And it was just not a good place mentally, physically, emotionally. And then, you know, stuff kind of started to get a little weird in our relationship, where he became more controlling and things like that. And then, you know, he had a abusive background growing up. His father was physically abusive and mentally abusive. And unfortunately, I got to experience that firsthand. I was not my normal self. I always prided myself on being independent, and you know,
so then
you do what you want. I don't care. And I was vulnerable, and he saw that and latched on. And then he slowly started to break me down little by little.
Yeah, and you were in such a state of you know, needing help. I mean,
I was just trying to survive.
Yeah. How old were you? You would have been like
19.
19. Okay, yeah.
19. And, you know, that one decision on somebody else's part, you know, not paying attention, changed my whole life. I ended up having to change my major in college because I couldn't do the time schedule anymore. I couldn't remember anatomy, and that's pretty important in the track I was going on. I couldn't get anywhere near a cadaver lab. As soon as I would smell formaldehyde, it would just make me violently ill. I took what I had been doing for 5 years that I loved, I had a passion for, and I was totally lost. And I had to restart over.
Jeez. So, I guess then so 7 months of you know, not knowing and then knowing, like what sort of happened next, in regards to trying to get help and sort this all out.
Thankfully, my parents were beyond supportive. My parents started to read my body language so well. My mom knew immediately when I was starting to get a migraine. And actually, those still linger to this day. I have chronic migraines. So she would look at me and go, "You need to go to bed." And I wouldn't fight her. And when I went back to school, I had taken the summer off, which is when the accident happened. It happened in June. And I took the summer off. Well, I didn't know how it was going to affect my schooling. Well, that first quarter back, I found out I could not remember anything 5 minutes after I learned it. And I would just cry and cry and cry because I was like, why can't I remember? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And thankfully, somebody that I still knew from high school, one of my teachers, said, they have programs to help you with that. You have symptoms. You need to tell them about it, and then they'll work with you. So I went to my family doctor, and she wrote a long list of all my issues that were, popping up and happening. And I got turned towards the Student for Disability Services at OSU. They basically work with students who have both visible and non-visible disabilities and work to make sure those students thrive and grow and can still have that college experience and graduate. And, I met with somebody, a counselor there, and they kind of asked me, what's your normal day like? How do you feel when you take tests? What causes, what stuff is holding you back? And they sat with me for about 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
And we just talked about everything that was going on. And we came up with a plan. And thankfully, it was only one quarter, because if it would have gone longer, I would have been on academic probation because that first quarter back I flunked. And thankfully it was in my first, little chunk of college, so I could retake those courses and replace those grades.
Sure.
So it was a blessing. It really was.
So you would say that like the college was very accommodating and supportive too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would reach out to my professors every quarter and say, okay, this is her, thing. If she has migraine, she might need some extra time off. Do not count it against her. She's going to need extra time on tests. She will not be taking tests with everybody else. That was one of the biggest things. I would be in class taking exams with everybody else, and I would start panicking because here I am on, a third of the way through and everybody else is finishing. And so I would just speed up and just put the wrong answers, and then I would flunk the test.
Yeah.
So that was a big help that they kind of removed me from that. They put me in a room by myself. It was soundproofed, and I could have time and a half. So if everybody else got an hour, I got an hour and a half. So that way I could just focus on that and not have the external distraction. And that was one of the big keys.
Yeah.
And then just learning to learn again in a different way that made sense in my newly wired brain that was wired totally different than what it was.
What about even like with like hygiene and kind of like your personal life, like having to relearn, right?
Oh, that it got to the point I barely wanted to get out of bed. I didn't want to get dressed, but I knew I had to. If I had a chance to just lay around and do nothing, that was always my choice. I started picking that over spending time with my friends, spending time with my sorority sisters. Being in certain situations, I just could not handle being around a lot of people. Well, being in the sorority, you're always in that situation. So, 2.5 years after I joined the sorority, I actually had to take alumni status. I just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I would have panic attacks out of nowhere, and it just was not good for me mentally or physically to do that. And I have lists. I still have lists to this day, and I have to have a routine. I'm very routinized. And if I move one thing out of my normal routine, it doesn't get done. I've forgotten to take my medication sometimes in the morning because I did one thing out of line and I forgot to go back to deal with that step. Again, so lists are my friend still. Routinization is still my friend.
But these
but
are,
as we all know, life isn't always the same.
Yeah, right. And well, I mean, that's in a way, it's sort of like a symbolism of what happened. You
hmm
know, I mean, you certainly didn't wake up that day expecting this life-changing event to happen. So like the lists and the routine have sort of become your way of coping after the accident.
hmm
Okay.
It definitely does, because I do this if I'm packing to go on vacation. I start packing 2 weeks ahead of schedule, and I go down my list and I make sure everything is packed, and I double check and triple check and quadruple check,
Mm-hmm.
and then my anxiety isn't as bad.
Yeah. Do you think
If
it's
I
sort
don't
of,
have that, it is.
yeah, so like the lists and the packing and the double checking is sort of satisfying this new anxiety.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
and counseling has been amazing. Um, I have a very small circle of some amazing women that I absolutely adore and love, and we have each other's backs no matter what. And we've all kind of had some similar backgrounds, so we know kind of what each other's thinking, and that has been really, really great. And then I'm not afraid to say this. I'm medicated.
Yeah.
um, some people with mental health issues don't want to be categorized. They don't want to be labeled. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was that way for a long time. I was embarrassed. I really was. And the more I learned about my issues and the more I learned there are more non-visible disabilities than there are visible disabilities, I was like, oh, okay, I might not see that, but it might be there with somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. You should, it's like that old, so truth. I mean, the saying of like, you just don't know what someone else is going through. You just don't,
hmm
and
Yeah.
that's really, I think, the essence of having empathy. But like for anyone though, I mean, medication is available, it's an
hmm
option. I just hope that people understand that it's really uniquely specific to each person. Would you
Yes.
agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I've been on a few different routine meds. Um, Thankfully, I go see my doctor every 6 months, and we do my eval every 6 months to make sure what's working, what's not. And a couple of the meds they tried me on just did not work. They actually made me more agitated, more aggressive. Um, one of them actually made me more depressed.
Mm,
So thankfully, we found a combination that works well for me.
yeah.
Um,
It seems to be like the best combo is that medication therapy,
hmm
model to because I mean, I think people get upset sometimes because your psychiatrist or your doctor just doesn't have the time to give you a whole hour to explore,
hmm
your thoughts and your feelings, and that's where the therapist can sort of come in.
hmm
You know,
And I love journaling. Journaling is
it's
my
fun.
thing.
Yeah, mine
It goes
too.
along with the list.
Absolutely, and
So,
it's great to go back and sort of like
uh-huh.
reread those because you're like, in the moment I wasn't thinking that, but now that I'm in a different state, oh, this is clearly
hmm
what was going on then.
Definitely. Right now in the winter, it kind of stinks. I love to garden.
Oh
I
yeah.
love to do flowers and herbs. I have a huge herb garden that I absolutely love tending to. Winter, it sucks because that's kind of my
Yeah.
breakdown and my just kind of release all my pent up whatever. Well, winter, I crochet.
There you
So
go.
it gives me something to get my mind off of, kind of if something's bugging me, and then I can kind of just sit back and relax and let my mind drift. Because unfortunately, with heightened anxiety and things like that, certain times of year, it's even worse than normal.
Hmm.
Um, but I fixate and I go worst case scenario first in my mind when it comes to certain things. And then that goes over to my sleep. And having chronic fatigue syndrome, that plays a part in all that as well. So I can get 18, 20 hours of sleep a day. I can get 5 hours of sleep a day. It doesn't matter. I'm still constantly tired.
So like you're not ever really getting into that REM sleep that they talk about, or?
I do. It's just the way after everything settled with my brain, the chemical imbalance that was caused after the car accident caused me to end up with chronic fatigue syndrome. Well, stuff goes hand in hand,
Yep.
My anxiety is multiplied. My agitation can be multiplied. My brain, some days, if I have too taxing of a day mentally, like if I'm doing a lot of reports, stuff like that, the next day, I am not worth anything.
You're just like completely wiped out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this would have been, I was doing the math, like 11 years ago?
20 years ago.
20. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. Duh.
Yep.
This is why
20
I'm
years
not
ago.
a math major.
So
Yeah. So
more than
20
half
years
my
ago.
life.
Yeah. Man, have you given much thought of just about that? That's,
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, I was like, I've lived more of my life with chronic migraines and chronic fatigue syndrome than I haven't.
all from one experience.
Yep. And, thankfully the company I work for, we have FMLA, which I have because I never know when I'm going to have, severe anxiety to the point that all I want to do is sit in my office and cry. Or if I have a migraine so bad I can't move out of bed, or if I have body aches. That's another fun thing about chronic fatigue. Your joints swell. They hurt. Your body aches. Some days it hurts to even move. And thankfully, I have that option for my job.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I also have the option to work from home if I need to. So.
Yeah. Do you have like a fairly good support system now, or like have you been trying to foster that?
My support system is absolutely amazing. My parents are still my number one cheerleaders.
Yeah.
I'll walk in at night and my mom goes, "You need to go home and go to bed."
Yeah.
Or I have a 7-year-old who kids are full of energy. And my mom will just look at my little girl and say, "Mama's tired. You need to let her rest."
Yeah.
And thankfully, she is such a little sweetheart, and she'll just snuggle up with me in bed, and she'll like kiss my forehead, and she'll like rub my face and my cheeks, and she'll go, "It's okay, Mama. You can rest."
Yeah. Aren't kids the best for that stuff?
She is.
They just like, I mean, they just remind you of how precious like life is.
Yeah. I never thought I was going to have children, actually, I was worried, how is this going to affect my child with everything that I have medical condition wise going on? And I was concerned about that. And then 5.5 years of trying, and she came out of nowhere, and she was
just a little
blessing
blessing
on earth.
Yeah. So you were able to move past the boyfriend, that relationship, and then you found someone else.
Yeah. And we grew up in linked communities, so our high school would play against their high school every now and then. So I'd seen him in passing, and then we met online and we started dating. And he tries to be as understanding as possible, but sometimes, even to this day, he still goes, "I just still don't understand this part."
Yeah.
And I try to explain it to him, but sometimes it's hard to explain stuff to somebody.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm not taking the part of the male's perspective, but like, we're, like we're always trying to fix things and like figure things out. And, it wasn't until I think my wife, many years ago was like, "Just stop it already. Like, I just need you to listen, like shut up with your fixing stuff." And it was really, really profound, because it did make me, I think, kind of sit back. And I mean, there's like, it wouldn't matter even if he did fully understand, that's not what you want from him.
No, I didn't want to be held with kid gloves. I didn't want to be looked at as being fragile, breakable. That has never been me. And I hated the thought of somebody seeing me that way. Yeah, I know I'm broken. You don't have to tell me.
Yeah.
You don't have to treat me that way. I know that. Treat me like I'm normal. Am I going to have bad days still? Yeah. Am I going to have really good days? Heck yeah.
Yeah, but
just love me in those really bad days a little bit harder.
Yeah, because would it be fair to say you're one of those types that's probably the hardest critic on yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And women are meant to be caregivers. We don't like to be taken care of. That's not, our MO usually. And, thankfully, sometimes I just go, I need time. I need time.
Well,
I will go disappear, run a bath, read a book in the bathtub.
Yeah. But there's, I'm sure there's many sort of, parts of this experience that you've sort of grown into the person you are today. And I'd imagine that one of those would be just that ability to, I don't want to say accept help, but to be open to help.
Mm-hmm. And that is very hard.
Yeah.
Very hard.
It is for a lot of people.
Go, I need help.
Yeah. There you go.
And, overall, I've learned I'm a heck of a lot stronger than I ever thought I was going to be. Being so young and having everything I'd ever known and everything, I looked forward to and I had been practicing for my career for years and years and years to be changed on it, in an instant.
Yeah.
And just coming out the other side and, still graduating with honors from college.
That's just amazing.
And just knowing, I was able to dig myself out. But would I have been able to do it on my own? No.
Right.
No.
And it's sort of because of that experience. I imagine that it introduced you to people that you would have maybe never brought into your life.
Yeah, definitely. I got involved in some stuff in college and I made some amazing friends. My sorority sisters, I'm still, I still keep in contact with a bunch of them. A couple of my friends I met doing some other projects through the university. I'm still very much in touch with all of them. We talk on a regular basis. And they've actually introduced me to some other people that are now in my circle, which is kind of cool. And I love meeting people because you don't know if what you went through could help them, and just talking. And some people everybody sees something in a different light, and they might see something in you and go, hey, have you? And suggest something, which is kind of really awesome. And
absolutely. I to me, like, and I'm sure it's got to be with just the profession that I'm in, but like being vulnerable, is probably like one of the most greatest leadership aspects, just the ability to be open and I just don't know the answer. And that's so, it's, people see through that bullshit of like, here he is just making up stuff again. It's like, no, like I'm literally telling you, I don't know what to do. And that's where I think being open then to, getting help, there's no shame in that. It's probably the most strength-based thing you could possibly be, is to be vulnerable enough to ask for help.
Mm-hmm. And even in my professional career, my boss has been with our company for 25 years. I've been with our company for 14 years. And we still ask each other questions. She's like, okay, I need to pick your brain.
Yeah. Right.
It's just funny, we have all this experience between the two of us, but yet we still ask those questions. And, it's just kind of funny to think about it sometimes. We have so much knowledge in our head and you just file it away and you don't use it for so long. You're like, did I remember that correctly? Hold on, let me ask a question.
Yeah, yeah. No, but that happens to me all the time. It's just like,
hmm
oh man.
Where you're
Um,
like, hold on, I might not know the answer, but I know somebody that might. Hold on.
yeah. Oh, that's the biggest thing. You know, I've been able to develop some close friendships with people that have just, you know, like that skill set that I could never have. But I'm like, man, I'm so
hmm
thankful that I have them to, you know,
hmm
have a lifeline on. Um,
Heck yeah.
how so since the accident, you know, I imagine driving has been difficult, or
Oh,
am I
oh,
assuming that?
that was the hardest thing to get back to doing. Um, After my car accident, I didn't want anybody to drive. I had to drive.
Yeah,
If somebody else drove, I would be putting my foot through the floor. I would have panic attacks. Even my parents, who have driven, more than I've been alive,
sure.
I would still have that anxiety and that panic. Um, so it was hard to get back in a car with somebody else driving. And my dad still jokes with me to this day when I will like grab the handle on the car, like,
Oh no.
hello.
Yeah,
He goes, sorry,
yeah.
sorry, my bad, I forgot.
You almost need to get like one of those like driving or those like driver's
Uh
ed
huh.
cars where
Yep.
the passenger's got the brake and you
Yep.
know. No, I can I of course. I mean, that would be I mean, extremely
Yeah.
difficult. I mean, I do find it interesting though if you had been the driver, you know, when the accident happened, would you have still felt the same way? You know,
I think I would have,
probably. Yeah.
just because I would have thought, could I have done something different?
Yeah.
Could I have changed the lanes quickly and gotten out of the way? Could I have stopped further back so that second impact wouldn't have happened?
Yeah,
It,
all those
yeah,
what ifs. I mean, you could probably spend a
yeah,
lifetime doing that.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, you know, my mother-in-law has always said this to me, and I'll probably I'll probably title it for this podcast, but she always says drive with careful, and it's like almost as if careful is a passenger in the car. You know, it's like
Uh huh.
just drive with careful, and I, I mean, it probably wasn't just her saying that to me, but there is no reason to pull out in front of someone. There just isn't, you know, there isn't any
Mhm.
reason to, you know, get behind someone, you know, it just, I don't understand it, but
Yeah. I have the mentality now. If somebody's tailgating me, I will pull over real quick on the side of the road and let them go past me.
yeah,
Because
just let them
all that's
weirdos go.
all,
Yeah.
all that's going to do is cause me anxiety and me to get agitated. It's not worth it.
Well, there's so much more too. I mean, it's just you being the bigger person to not
Mhm.
even play a part in an accident, you know, of this, you know, it's their fault, my fault. No, no, no. Like I'm not playing that game. It's just not going to happen, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah,
And
or
a 3-year court battle over the last one. I don't want to have to go through that again.
3 years.
3 years. She her insurance company was from another state, and it was a no fault state, even though she lived in a state where it is a no fault state. And if you rear end somebody, it's automatically your fault. And 3-year court battle later, we finally settled everything. And yeah, I don't want to go through that ever again.
Yeah. Was the person remorseful in any way or?
No, not at all. She kept telling everybody it was my fault. The sun was in her eyes. I was like, oh, that's impressive. The sun changed directions on setting and rising. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, it
Puts
was just, yeah.
yeah. Wear sunglasses. I mean,
Well, eh,
jeez, oh Pete, though. It's just, I mean, it's just all around not good.
mm-mm. And thankfully, my lawyer was absolutely amazing through the whole process, and he was always available to answer my questions. And when I had to go through depositions and I would start going into a panic attack, he would go, "We need a break. and he'd let me go out in the hallway. He'd come out with me. I'd have my cry. I'd settle down, and I'd go back and start my deposition stuff again. He understood,
Yeah.
and I was his priority. Nobody else. Everybody else could sit there for the next 8 hours. He could care less. He wanted to make sure I was okay.
Yeah. Oh man, though.
Yeah. It's, sometimes it's a daily struggle,
Yeah.
Even on medications, you can still have bad days.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like the medication is hopefully not there to numb you. It's it's there to help you cope, but I mean, you still want to have feelings and you still want to live, and
yeah. And thankfully, my doctor's always available, and my company does have therapy through teledoc appointments and stuff like that if I need it. So that's always a nice little thing. But
yeah,
certain times of the year, no matter what I do, I just start cocooning in on myself, and everybody knows to leave me alone for a little bit.
Yeah,
because I need to just be.
Yeah, and like I like that you said, the part about gardening and then crocheting and just it's really important for people, particularly with just mental wellness all in general, to have hobbies, to have things that you enjoy to do for the sake of just doing them or just to pass time. And I mean, there's no shame in that. I think that's awesome. It's a much better way to cope with just that idle time,
And it makes me a better mom.
Yeah.
If you can't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of this little girl that's looking up to you and wants to spend time with you and do things with you? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. And you're showing her how to cope with life too.
Yep. And just showing her, sometimes you gotta be a little selfish.
Yeah.
Mommy's going to go lay in the bathtub for the next hour, 2 hours, however long I want. I'm going to go read a book.
Yeah, that's just called self-care. Yeah, that's not being selfish. That is called self-care. That's awesome. Absolutely.
She'll come in and she's like, "How's your water?"
Oh, I'll be like, "Is the temperature fine, Mommy?" Or that's
she
so
does.
cute.
And she just cracks up. She goes, "Do you need anything? Do I need to get you a drink?" And I'm like, "I'm fine."
Yeah, she just wants to be a little helper,
Yeah, she has the sweetest little heart. And I always say, if I did nothing else in this life correct, her having that sweet heart means I did something good. I did something right.
For sure. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you've already shared a couple of sources of strength, I'd say, from this experience, but I'm sure having your little girl and your hubby and your career, and I mean, that's those all have sort of been impacted from this experience. But are there any other sources of strength?
The rest of my family, just knowing that they know I might not always be up to hanging out with, the family on stuff, and they understand and they acknowledge that. And they'll just text me and go, "Okay, what do you want us to do?"
Yeah.
Or they'll go, "Do you need X, Y, and Z?" Or my aunt will text me and go, "Hey, can I have Becca for the day so you can have a you day?"
Oh, yeah.
And
that's great.
It's a village. It really is.
Absolutely.
And just, that whole aspect of knowing all I have to do is pick up my phone and I have somebody there it means the world, because not everybody has that.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very lucky to have that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing your story. There's a lot of mental health messages to what you said. The most obvious one is for, I hope every audience member that's listening to this is paying attention if they're in the car, or they start to pay attention, because it's not worth being distracted. You really need to pay attention when you're on the road. Like, I don't know how else to say it other than, you could impact, someone's life, let alone your own. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure you would probably echo that, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't just have to be on the road in a car. It can also be on the road of life,
Yeah. That's
And
absolutely.
every choice has two directions, good and bad,
Very well said. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story, and I hope the experience was okay for you too.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And if I can help somebody else or, kind of give strength to somebody else, that is always amazing. And I had fun
Oh, well,
doing this, and it's therapeutic for me too.
yeah. It wasn't scary, right?
No.
No, it's not. Well, thank you again, and we will definitely keep in touch. I just appreciate you being the first phone call.
I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you ever need me or want to talk or anything, I'm here for you.
Awesome. I will definitely reach out.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Hold each other close, walking in the rain. You were like a picture and I the frame. You were like the air and I a plane.
By the way, at The Wellness Project, we have merchandise. That's right, all mental health awareness themed products. We've got artwork, we've got shirts, we've got hats, we've got candles. We're gonna have one for like anxiety awareness, depression awareness, wellness awareness, which is actually out right now. That's right, you can get your own wellness awareness candle. What does it smell like, right? You have to come in and check it out. But if you hit me up on Facebook, or you can email me and I can give you that information. And thank you for your support.
There's a million places I could go, but so you